The Great Plains of the Northern Continents. Lands of hot summers, but cold winters. The breadbaskets of the developed world. They are also home to many great cities and are the heartlands for the two largest countries on Earth. In a band encircling the Earth of the mid-latitudes, between the forbidding Arctic north and the deserts and humid plains to the south. These are the lands of the continental climates. In our journey from equator to pole, we'll be leaving the southern hemisphere for a time as we set our focus on the great northern continents. Being so far from the moderating influence of the oceans, these continents produce a variety of climate types that have one thing in common: big temperature ranges from summer to winter. There are two distinct biomes that occur within North America and Eurasia. The colder and more northerly of these is the endless subarctic pine forest, known as the taiga. We'll take up this in the next episode. In this video, we'll look at the warmer of these, which are the mixed woodlands and grasslands that are home to hundreds of millions of people and countless cities stretching across Canada, the United States, Northern and Eastern Europe, Russia, and the Northern Far East. In the Koppen climate classification, there are, at first, a seemingly bewildering number of climates here, 6 in total. They are subdivided by rainfall pattern and temperature. Where there is a hot summer, with the average day-night temperature being above 22 degrees Celsius, the designation ends in an A. Where there is a cooler but still warm summer below 22 degrees Celsius, the designation ends in B. All continental climates by definition must have the average day-night temperature in winter below -3 degrees Celsius, otherwise they fall under the Oceanic, Mediterranean or humid subtropical climates. Where there are wet winters and dry summers, this is an extension of the Mediterranean climate into adjoining higher altitude areas and is the least common of the continental climates, being limited to the interiors of the Pacific Northwest and Turkey, along with the western slopes of the Altai Mountains in Central Asia. When such a rainfall pattern is reversed, with dry winters and wet summers, we have a form of monsoon. In fact, the only places where this occurs are in Eastern Asia, where the Asian monsoon extends far into the north, eastern Siberia, northern China, and Korea. The most common continental climate is where the rainfall is distributed relatively evenly throughout the year. DFA is the continental humid hot summer, while DFB is the continental humid warm summer. These two make up the bulk of the population centers in the mid-latitudes of the northern continents and so are especially important. Now, those of you paying attention in the last episode on cool deserts might recall this concept of continentality, where land is so far from the ocean that it receives little rain. So how is it that these continental interiors can support so much biosphere and population? Well, firstly, they are, on the whole, further north than the cool deserts, which reduces evaporation due to a weaker sun, and so for a given amount of rain, more plants can grow. This more northerly latitude also brings much of western and central Eurasia under the sway of wet westerly winds blowing in from the Atlantic, with no mountain ranges to stop them all the way from the Baltic to Siberia. In this way, these areas, mostly of the DFB warm humid summer variant, can be thought of as a continental form of the oceanic climate that we looked at in episode 7. In the case of North America, the moisture from the westerlies is all but blocked by the Rocky Mountains, so much of the rain comes from the humid south. In this respect, this climate can be viewed as a simply colder and drier form of the humid subtropical climate that we looked at in episode 5. As this warm southerly air mixes with the very different colder, drier Arctic air over these areas, it often gives rise to extreme weather events in the form of heavy thunderstorms, tornadoes, and hail. Eastern Asia, like all climates in that region, is subject to the Asian monsoon, where due to the enormity of this continent and the presence of the Tibetan plateau, the doldrums of tropical wind convergence are pushed way to the north over Mongolia in the summer, producing low pressure that pulls in wet air from the nearby Pacific as far north as eastern Siberia. In winter, with high pressure over Mongolia, the wind direction is reversed, with dry air now flowing over northern China, Korea, and eastern Siberia. The result is wet summers and dry winters. Compared to more southerly monsoon areas though, the total rainfall is much lower, and in general all the continental climates are relatively dry compared to all but the desert climates. The continental climate, with its wide temperature range, has the most distinct of the traditional four-season pattern found in the temperate band. Winters are always cold and snowy, and summers are marked by long days with plenty of warm to hot sun, while spring and autumn are found between with their own well-known characters. So where in the world are the continental climate zones? Well, due to the lack of continental landmass below the equator, they all occur in the north. Beginning just to the east of the Rockies in Canada, the provinces of Alberta and Saskatchewan are dominated by the CFB warm humid summer variant. Moving east, and this band of CFB gradually moves south to incorporate the Dakotas, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, and the whole of the Great Lakes region, Upper New York State, and all of New England, as well as all the main population centres of Ontario, Quebec, and the maritime provinces of Canada. Further south, and the heart of the American Midwest comes under the sway of the hot summer continental CFA variant, including the states of Nebraska, Kansas, Iowa, Missouri, and Illinois. As we head east, this band narrows between the CFB continental climate to the north and the humid subtropical climate to the south, with Indiana, Ohio, and Pennsylvania sheltered from the warm Atlantic by the Appalachian Mountains, experiencing cold winters and hot summers. Skipping across the Atlantic and past the Oceanic climate zone of northwest Europe, we encounter again a huge area of the CFB variant of warm summers and cold winters, from eastern Germany and southern Scandinavia in the west, moving through all of Eastern Europe, the Baltic states, Ukraine, Belarus, and encompassing much of European Russia. This band continues to extend for thousands of miles deep into the heart of Asia and Siberia, before finally being squeezed between the subarctic forests of the north and the deserts to the south. In Eastern Asia, the monsoon DWA and DWB variants dominate, with much of northern China and eastern Siberia and Korea experiencing hot or warm wet summers and cold dry winters. Due to its extreme altitude, we find the most southerly of all continental climates in Tibet, where much of this plateau experiences cold, dry winters and a mild to hot, wet summer in a similar way. Lastly, the north of Japan, including the island of Hokkaido, being surrounded by water, has the year-round rain of the DFB variant, while the northern half of Honshu Island has the hotter summer DFA variant. Because of the bitterly cold winter wind blowing off from Siberia over the warm, moist sea of Japan, this results in massive snowfalls over northern Japan. In fact, Sapporo, Hokkaido's capital, is the snowiest city in the world. The natural vegetation of the continental climate zones is a mixture of grasslands and forests of both deciduous and coniferous varieties, depending on how much rain falls. On the fringes between this and the semi-arid climate, grasslands dominate. On the border with the subarctic climates to the north, deciduous woodland gradually gives way to uniform pine forest. Large-scale mechanized agriculture dominates these areas. In North America, the endless plains are covered by wheat and corn fields as far as the eye can see. Soybeans and barley are also common. Ukraine and southern Russia is similarly dominated, while Eastern Europe and southern Scandinavia, where the climate is milder from bordering on the Oceanic climate, allows for a greater variety of crops and livestock. Instead of rice, which otherwise dominates this country, northern China sees much of the countryside, like the climatic counterparts in Europe and North America, also given over to wheat, corn, and barley production. Between these endless plains, of course, lie many great and famous cities. and that's the continental climate zones. Please leave your comments, especially if you're one of the many folks that live in one of these climates, to share your experiences of them. And if you enjoyed the video, click the like button and share it with your friends or fellow students. Please click the subscribe button if you haven't already done so you don't miss future episodes. I also have a Patreon channel, details of which are provided in the text below the video if you'd actively like to support the making of these documentaries. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode, where we'll be headed further north to view the endless pine forests of the subarctic and the most extreme temperature ranges to be found anywhere on Earth.